All right, lock in, ladies and gentlemen. We had a crazy day. We gotta talk about it. In fact, I myself had quite an exhausting day with lots of going on, and I was so busy and tired. And but yet, I could have not gone resting without making a video addressing what's going on. So, ladies and gents, grab your wine, grab your beer, whatever it is that you like and helps you relax, and let's go over the price action. Let's talk about my thesis. Let's talk about what we see, and so on and so on. First of all, I don't. I believe right now, pretty certainly, without even checking, going through the YouTube sphere, the stocks and socks sphere on YouTube. I'm not even gonna go through. I'm pretty sure that 99.9% out of your various talking heads, bubbleheads, and stock tubers, right, are very bullish right now. And you're like, Greg, why are you smiling? Don't you have a bearish position? Shouldn't you be upset and all worried? Well, first of all, I'm not worried. This is far from being my first rodeo. And I actually do know technical analysis, and I am my own independent analyst, and I know what I'm doing and have proven that many times over. So no, I'm not worried at all. In fact, you shouldn't be either. But regardless whether you're an investor, trader, you have a position to the upside, downside, it doesn't matter. The market's going to do what it's going to do. The whole trick is whether you're aware of it and you understand where things are headed. So this is what I'm going to try and cover. And no, I'm actually excited because I want to wear that face of that bearish movement, because now everyone is extremely bullish right now, and you'll not find the bear in a kilometer or a mile, right? So let me be that crazy bear that says that the market is gonna drop while the market is going higher. In fact, as you can see on the screen right now, our previous all-time high was 7,002.28, as I've said multiple times in my recent videos. My assessment for that corrective movement, which we are within right now, was somewhat lower. I was expecting this, first of all, to move back to 6,666. Then, as a sort of top measure of that channel, within which that 6,666 level is, has its upper band at around 6,700-ish, in that vicinity. And so that was where my expectation was, that we will see the price being held up, potentially move a little bit sideways and break down. So it seems that I was wrong, if you want to. I really don't mind. Underestimated how strong this is. Those who don't know, you want to call me wrong? No, I don't mind. Those boos means nothing to me. I know what makes you cheer, so to speak, to those who do not understand, the uninitiated. Now, why I say that? Because when the market was headed basically plummeting with its head down, and everyone here were screaming, that's it, that's the end of the stock market, we're going to break and continue breaking. I kind of stopped everyone and I said, guys, unfortunately here we're seeing a correction, a bullish movement, even though I didn't like what I saw from the standpoint of my position. Again, as you all know, or should know by now, I have zero biases about the analysis, zero biases about the stock market, and I always present the analysis as is, even though I have a position that may contradict the popular opinion, which of course, again, we will see who's going to benefit what at the end of the process. We're far from the end, so to speak. Now, so let's go over the time frames and just kind of analyze what it is that we saw. First of all, we did open up with a tiny little gap. Today we saw there was a little bit of a gap. I am certain I remember I saw a little bit of a gap. I do not, wait, yeah, I'm not far enough. Where am I? Let's throw the day. All right, so here it is. Here's the beginning. Yeah, here's the beginning. Why I'm small, moved already to small time frame. So of course here we had that tiny little gap. That gap was filled in pretty quickly as the market opened up. As you can see, we matched our close with the price action to follow, so to speak, relatively quickly within the framework of the market open. Even made another little gap right there. I see kind of on the way. closed it up and continued moving bullish. So on the 1 minute, nothing all that significant. We've seen a lot of sort of back and forth. That's why we don't pay attention oftentimes to the 1 minute, although the channel seems to be quite intact and very strong. That is the channel we've been riding since yesterday, pretty much. That's the very same channel, as we can see on the 1 minute. 5 minutes, we getting closer to more interesting time frames, but then again, what we're looking at is potentially the first, I would arguably 30 minutes of the market open, considering all the candlesticks. We are seeing it's positive in bearish territory, around that 20 range. If you look above me, there is that new layout that I made for you, ladies and gentlemen, that allows you to understand my references to the stochastic RSI, so you can understand them better. So as you can see, we are shifting over, although bullish, but we still are in bearish territory, right below the 20 mark. We can see our D, our red line, is at 19.72. In other words, haven't yet penetrated the 20. And once we see that reversal, we will continue seeing more bearish momentum, at least on the 5 minute scale, which does not mean all that much. It probably means that very same $7,002. By the way, those who want to understand and know, from the harmonic structure standpoint, from the harmonic pattern standpoint, from the cyclicality standpoint, this is a little bit of an abnormality. My expectation is that by the time this week will close or lock in the candlestick, this weekly candlestick, my assessment that although right now actively we are above it, by the time we end up by the time this week will finish, we will have not a full-on body of a candlestick left. The price will retrace downwards and we'll have only a wick following still the harmonic patterns. In other words, yes, we can have the wick over penetrate that previous high and not create a harmonic a pattern breaking circumstance, right? By the way, it could be another little variable that many people and myself also consider, that maybe my count on the smaller scale cyclicality is slightly off, and given me being slightly off, me assessing that being the highest high, while potentially this will have that secondary high and a secondary shoulder, sort of the right shoulder to follow that head that is now being generated. Although arguably, in my humble opinion, given what we will see in a second in the momentum, on the momentum side of things, I really don't think that will be the case. I think once the bearish momentum on the daily and 4 hourly will start going into effect, which is very, very short term, literally, in fact, I was telling my members today in the community how we may see the crash, the breakdown start today. So the idea here is that I'm basically in my corner of the market is going to crash. There is probably only me right now and potentially Michael Burry. Michael Burry is always aiming downwards. That's kind of the movements he tries to grab onto, and so arguably that is basically just me in the entire YouTube sphere and maybe a couple of other fringe YouTubers who are telling you, oh no, this is far from over and things are going to get real bad. So I'm going to be gladly wearing the face or the presentation of that breakdown, right? So then people can say, oh Greg, look, you are so wrong, you said we're going to break down from here on out, and Tom Lee was right, we're going to go to 7,300 or something of that nature, right? Let's use Tom Lee as the other protagonist on the other side, right? The antagonist, if you will, in my case. Now let's go over the time frames real quick, and I want to show you what it is that prompts me to think that although, and I know for some of you who are more of the knowledgeable crowd, those who understand technical analysis and understand harmonic patterns, and as you potentially thought just like myself that if given the correct harmonic structure, this point should not cross above the current high point, the current all-time high 7,022.96, shouldn't occur, and we should be not able to penetrate that 7,002.28. Now let's look at what momentum says about that. We can look at the 30 minutes, although 30 minutes again is inconsequential on the grand scheme of things, and what we're potentially seeing is that crossover of the forces leading to the price action to retest again that 7,002, although it is all that close given the strength of how this trend is, given how although it will become bearish but still in bullish territory, again above 50, that is the more bullish neutral side of things. Yes, everything between 20 and 80 is neutral. Remember, 50 is center, and so the directionality from the center does determine the overall directionality of the price action. So Greg, are you seeing that we still may test this current high that we're within the range of? Absolutely. We can test it to potentially tomorrow throughout the night. In fact, the only one thing I am truly hopeful of, and although not quite a religious person, I'm willing to pray for that one. I really do hope we're not going to generate overnight a large gap to the downside, which will then cause a lot of skepticism with regards to momentum and continuation of the price action down. In other words, we'll end up sort of stalling and revolving around the same level over and over just to fill in that gap, just to then being able to continue downwards. Regarding gaps, by the way, we do have a couple of really interesting gaps below us. Again, gaps are a side effect, so they are not all that people think they are. Given the directionality of the price action and how we are overturning, that does become a possibility. Given how large this gap is, and we will see the directionality very shortly, that also becomes quite an evident gap that will get filled on the way down. Greg, how can you be so confident we will go down in this scenario? Well, wait patiently and see in a second. If you don't want to wait patiently, you'll have a wonderful day and good luck. Don't come crying to me. And the market will break very badly, which appears to be just around the corner. In fact, if you pay attention above me again, as I refer to the new layout, right, you will see that basically when we do move and over penetrate into overbought territory, well, usually we can ride high or have a set of usually what ends up being 3 impulses. As you can see, we already had 1. We already had 2, and now we're having 3rd, as we're seeing diminishing momentum, as you can tell, and as that crossover, that last final crossover will happen, that usually the indication for us when the directionality changes. In other words, we're going to start moving downwards, having a lot more bearish pressure, but that will only ring true only if our 1 hourly time frame does confirm and goes in agreement with the sort of the broader story, confirms the inner story, right? The inner story is always less significant and always plays within the framework of the larger picture, bigger story, right? Longer duration story, whichever you want to refer to it. And well, lo and behold, we've been running hot, very much so. We've been riding high, if you will, above the 80 for quite some time, as you can see, since pretty much that 13, well, actually you can look at that 13, 12-ish, right? Pretty much the entire week we've been riding high, and that is the entire push we had right here. Prior to that, we had the beginning of the month, basically all the way pushing from the 31st of the month. That's kind of where we turned around. 30th, 31st, we turned around, generated a small gap right there, generated another large gap and another small one. And this entire singular movement, which is I was warning about all in advance, by the way, is just that my assessment was that we will turn around here, generate that corrective equilibrium sort of shoulder to what we have on the left side, making this the head. Is it possible for us to have a set of 3 tops like so, right? With the right side being higher than the head, still serving us as the shoulder? Yes, absolutely, that is a possibility. Likelihood wise, it's less likely given where we are in the cycle, given where we are in the harmonic pattern structure. Is it impossible? No, it's not. That's, in my humble assessment, why we're seeing the price action struggle so badly. And so again, I want everyone to remember very, very closely right now and pay close attention to how all the so-called analysts around are very bullish right now and are probably screaming from the rooftops oh, look how bullish we have been in the last several, well, week and a half or so, a handful of sessions. If we've been bullish, that means we're gonna be bullish from here on out. That was the bottom. Tom Lee called it, and so on and so on and so on. So again, in a handful of days, a handful of sessions, when we will see the price action turn around and go lower, and everybody will be telling you, remember, I told you, I was telling you we're gonna drop, blah, 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 woof, woof. No, 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 no. Right now, they're all telling you to the moon, and they're bullish as, as the craziest bull can be. As far as I can tell, I'm the only bear around. Which means if I'll end up being right, I'll end up being right. Okay? So when things will unravel, keep the same energy as you have right now. If you believe or see through the analysis that I may be correct, wonderful. I appreciate that. I appreciate the support. Great. In fact, you should join the community. You should join and learn more advanced techniques and understand why right now, when everybody's panicking and thinking, or of course, there's a high variety and combination of types of feelings and emotions right now. I missed out. I should have done this. I should have done that. None of this is truly important as much as the overall cyclicality, and those who are aware of it and understand where the market will proceed going. That's what will be sort of the key measure of your analytical abilities of the price action. Most people right now will be extremely discombobulated, will think the market is bullish given how the momentum was bullish all along. Look at that. That's evidence, in fact. For a proper double top bull trap, what we need is the second high to be higher than the previous high. It could be, again, beyond everything that I may have done on the inner cycle, on the inner scale of things, a miscalculation, and I've assessed a top one before the one we have right now. Irregardless, as it stands right now, if we're going to continue looking at the various time frames, what we're going to learn is something very simple. That the very same tools that were able to tell us that we're still going to have a rapid movement to the upside. In fact, I've shown multiple times in my recent videos how I did say it could go as high as 6,900. Although I'm going to be completely honest with you guys, at no stage did I actually think we're going to get that high, right? I was absolutely transparent saying 6,666 and 6,700, giving that is the ceiling of that band, of that range, if you will. And so if we continue looking at the hourly is already running hot and meant to break down, as you can see, sometime soon. The 4-hourly even more so. Through the 4-hourly, in fact, we can see the entire upside movement, this entire corrective movement that we had. We can see the entirety of it, and through, again, knowing how the indicator works, wink, wink, we can understand that when we ride high after a while, we have now then a change in directionality, okay? Now, we basically have reversal going on in progression, okay? This is reversal in progression. In fact, you can see how we already have the forces coming to converge on each other right there. Both of them are at 100, which means we want to be looking towards our daily to have indication whether we are in a bull or a bear trend. So, lo and behold, we see roughly the same thing right now, still bullish dominant, right? We can see that the 100 number is higher, of course, than the 99.59. That is that remnants of that bullish momentum we said we're probably going to see tomorrow. But when we start crossing over into our weekly, we're going to realize something interesting. We see the print of the entire bullish movement we had so far, but all of it is corrective. Why? Because it is below the 50 range, again, within bearish territory. More so, I want to highlight and give you an example of how the market does exactly that. Right here, you see how the momentum was rushing up, and then from a very steep divergence to the upside, the two forces very quickly converged on each other and turned around. And so my expectation is we will see sort of what happens to be true at the end, right? Whether Greg is wrong, Greg is right, the analysis is true or wrong. My assessment here is that soon, very soon, given how, again, the time frame is structured and how we're already seeing bearish momentum starting to sip in through the slightly smaller time frames, which will come through and affect this. This does matter. But you're like, Greg, didn't you say the larger time frame matters? Yes, it does. Exactly why we should pay attention to the monthly chart and realize all along that weekly correction, and that's why I keep calling it a correction, because it's merely a bullish movement within a very strong bearish overturn. It just still hasn't yet gone full on bearish because we haven't yet penetrated that 50 range. And as you can see, we are on our clear way down with clear divergence. And of course, we can know our quarterly has already shifted over and is bearish as well. So you see, the broader picture is very much bearish. It's just that internally within that bearish picture, we now still have a little bit of bullish momentum to be purged, which come through as these sort of impulses when you have a shoe company transition to become an AI company. I'm not even going to address that bullshit. I mean, yeah. This is just, it's not even funny anymore. It just goes to highlight how bad the AI sector is right now. That's all I'm gonna say. If you're buying AI right now, do it at your own, discretion and risk, because that's not a healthy environment where a shoe company goes up 400+% within half a session merely because it transitioned from making shoes to doing AI somehow. Just that whole doing AI, I'm not. Yeah, it is as ridiculous as it sounds. Absolutely. That's it, ladies and gents. I think my point came through. My main sort of gist of what I was trying to say is that many people are right now going to be absolutely blinded by this bullish movement that we've seen in the recent. Not this one. That bullish movement we've seen in the recent sessions, right? That correction that everybody thinks, oh, that's it, the bottom has been found, and from here on out to the moon. So I'm sorry to disappoint, and I'm sorry, but I'm not sorry actually, to be the controversial voice, right? To be the unpopular, so the guy with the unpopular opinion. I'm gladly gonna be that guy. I'm fairly certain with the analysis, and I'll just tell you that let's hold on for just a little bit, for a couple more sessions, and see whether Greg was wrong or right. If you guys are right, wonderful for you. Plenty of people will make plenty of money. I will be more in the red. But if I'm right, laughs who laughs last, so to speak. Alrighty, ladies and gents, don't forget to subscribe, like if you like the video, dislike if you dislike it. Put your comments down below in the comment section. All the links are in the description below. Don't forget to ring the notification bell if you want to be informed anytime I post something, so you'll not be missing out. Very importantly, like for example, right now, usually I don't put out these sort of right after the end of the session, these sort of emergency warnings or sort of thing. If anything, I try to make these before the trading day starts, put them out, get you guys prepared. But in this instance, I simply had to go online and talk about this, because this is, in my humble opinion, is one of the clearest instances of a bull trap like we've never seen one before in the recent years, arguably. And so, yeah, I've done my part, so nobody can come later and tell me, Greg, you didn't tell us, how come we didn't know? And when suddenly will become evident, and everybody will be saying exactly that, how come the market didn't warn us, blah, 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 blah. No, the market was screaming and yelling at you that this is not going to last. And this is basically, I don't want to call it fake nor manipulated, but it is, let's call this somewhat artificial. Okay? Ladies and gents, you'll have a good night. See you in the community. Bye for now.